There has been so much negative news surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows, and Ubisoft can't seem to do or say anything that is quelling the worries of customers. But now the art director has decided to respond to criticisms regarding the game's depiction of Japan, saying we've paid a lot of attention to stay as respectful as possible, but the lie detector has determined that that's a lie. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, right off the bat, I have to ask why there were Japanese reenactment groups banners in this game if they really were committed to authenticity and being as respectful to Japanese culture as possible. The banners, by the way, that Ubisoft is refusing to remove the images of in their collector's art book, which is not very respectful, in my opinion, but in response to the numerous complaints that have been levied towards the game's handling of Japanese culture, the Shadows art director has attempted to assure critics that he and his fellow devs are attempting to stay as respectful as possible to Japanese culture. And I say this all the time when it comes to extremely divisive products like this. There are always going to be a few people that are part of the development team who are genuinely passionate, who do genuinely want to do the best work they possibly can, but that work gets overshadowed by the activists and the people who are only diversity hires who can't do this job because they're not skilled enough. And I'm sure that there are people that are a part of this game who do want to do their best, and maybe some of those people are on the art team. But so far, the art has been criticized like many other elements of this game. It says from its incorrect application of Chinese architecture and modeling Japanese buildings, using a modern-day reenactment group's custom banner for a historical military unit, and without the group's permission, no less, and the depiction of the historical Yasuke as a full-blown samurai rather than just a retainer, Shadows has constantly stumbled in attempting to digitally recreate the Land of the Rising Sun as it appeared during its years under the control of the famous Oda Nobunaga. Now, yes, I do think that there is a little bit of wiggle room with a game like Assassin's Creed Shadows. Not every single character was a historical figure, but when you have a protagonist who is a historical figure, like Yasuke, and he's the first one within this franchise's history, they had to do a significantly better job than they have done in the past. And yeah, in the past, some of these side characters have been historical figures, and the depictions of them were pretty good, like Leonardo da Vinci and Cleopatra and George Washington, characters and people like that. But when you are introducing things like LGBT romances and Yasuke can get down with any guy he wants, that's not going to sit well with people. And it's not just Yasuke as a character, which has become extremely controversial. Yes, we did see the use of a modern-day reenactment group's custom banner for a historical military unit, and without their permission. Plus, Ubisoft's refusing to remove that image from their art book. I do think it's because the physical versions are already printed and they'd have to scrap all them. But if you really were dedicated to historical accuracy, you would be doing anything in your power to fix the situation you found yourself in. Plus, there's also the incorrect application of Chinese architecture in modeling the Japanese buildings. It just does not seem like they had people that are part of this project who cared about historical accuracy. Of course, we know that they worked with a quote, historian like Thomas Lockley, and he has boasted in the past about his work practically being fan fiction. I mean, calling Yasuke the first black samurai is, already questionable enough because he wasn't a full-blown samurai. He was a retainer, and it just seemed that they implemented multiple historically inaccurate elements into this game, and they don't particularly care. Eventually, the discourse around Shadow's depiction of Japan grew so loud that the game devs team, under the oversight of their parent company Ubisoft, eventually chose to offer a half apology / half request for trust, specifically from Eastern critics. They are desperate. Now, I do think that Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to sell to a certain degree because it's Assassin's Creed. It's a franchise that has a lot of recognizability. There are a lot of people who know this franchise and will blindly support it. And if you think this game looks good, I'm glad. I hope you buy it, I hope you support it, and I hope you have a really great time with it, because at the end of the day, I want video games to be loved and played and enjoyed, but I know that a lot of people have been criticizing it, and also they've said that they are going to boycott it, and I do think that with all of the talk that's been circulating social media for months at this point, they are starting to panic. They had Skull and Bones, which was a major disaster at the beginning of the year. X-Defiant was supposed to be the Call of Duty killer, and it fell flat. Star Wars Outlaws was a nightmare for them. The sales were not good, and we had heard from Ubisoft directly that it boasted their largest marketing budget ever. So now they are really relying on Assassin's Creed Shadows to bring them in the money that they need. Otherwise, they're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars lost. I mean, their stock had recently plummeted as the company faced pressure from investors to take the company private. And we did hear that, yeah, the Star Wars Outlaws sales were underwhelming. They were soft, which isn't shocking. Star Wars Outlaws is not a good game. It is not a game that should have released yet. They needed like at least another year to flesh out some of the systems within the game and make it much more visually appealing. And while I do think that visually Assassin's Creed Shadows seems to be of higher quality, you have all of these issues that have really piled up with the banners, the historical figure inaccuracies, also the hip-hop music behind Yasuke's combat. Like, it's just screaming a Assassin's Creed game made for the modern audience, making this as diverse and inclusive as possible. And diversity and inclusivity are good when they are not done in order for a company or a team to check off boxes on a checklist, and that is exactly what happened here. They went into making this game going, how can we chase the ESG dollars? How can we get the BlackRocks and the Vanguards to invest in our company and continue helping us produce games like this? Oh, I know! Let's pick Yasuke, a figure that, yes, in entertainment has been depicted many times as more of a full-blown samurai than a retainer. They're just kind of following Hollywood's and the Western world's trends, but that doesn't mean it's not offensive, and there are plenty of Japanese gamers who are saying they refuse to touch this game with a 10-foot pole, and this is all on top of the recently announced mentorship program developed at Ubisoft that discriminates against males based on their sex. I did a previous video on it, but it will be linked down below, but basically, they're more worried about hiring and mentoring as many women and non-binary individuals while pushing men out of their company and out of the gaming industry in totality. So they have faced loss after loss, fail after fail, criticism and controversy after criticism and controversy, and it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. I mean, this art director just cannot seem to stop lying. I mean, this entire team cannot stop seeming to lie, and it will be interesting to see who else they try to send into interviews and making statements, seeing if they can damage control at all. But so far, the damage control surrounding Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Shadows has been an epic failure. But that's all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.